And then it will forget that it's just that. And I say, got it.
Oh, look at us go.
Got it.
Now I need to bring my...
Between the two of us, this is going to be fine.
Oh.
We've got this.
You would think, I'm like 20 and you would think I know technology like off by hand. I'm horrible. Okay.
Well, I'm in my 50s and I'm just as horrible. So if it makes you feel any better.
I'm better at using a record player than I am at using my phone.
Girl, after my own heart.
Oh, well, today is the very first episode of this amazing new podcast and journey for episode 1. And I'm very excited to have this beautiful and inspiring actress as my very first guest on Talking to the Stars. Please welcome Miss Lucinda Cowden. I know, ta-da.
Woo! Thanks for having me. Thanks for being the first. That's exciting. I'm excited. I'm the first one ever.
I know. Well, you are such a wonderful human and I'm so excited to get to interview you. I first met you on the Logie's red carpet and fangirled hard. And I just want to say, you definitely rock a red carpet. You need to do more of them.
Yeah, well, I don't do that many of that sort of stuff. I kind of like, I just the whole dressing up stuff, it's kind of, I find it all a bit frightening.
Are you more like a low-key kind of person?
Such more a low-key kind of person.
I love it. That's a vibe.
Yeah, it is, totes.
It's so annoying putting makeup on and getting your hair done.
Oh, look, that was kind of fun, but it's just a kind of a pressure. And it I just felt like the Logies had changed so much since the last time I went, which was, admittedly a fair few, like a couple of decades previously.
Yeah.
And
probably way before I was born.
It would have been so way before you were born. In fact, I think it was probably like 1992.
Oh,
exactly. Yeah. So almost a decade probably before you were born, Miss Linley-Dale. So So, and it was just I don't know, it didn't used to be so fashion-y. It used to just be more about, actors getting together and having a party, really.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem to be, I felt like I thought I was at the Brownlows, to tell you the truth.
Oh, that's an interesting way of describing the Logies these days.
I felt like it was all about, who are you wearing and all of that stuff. And I was I was like, oh my God, I just don't care about this stuff. And I don't know anything. And I don't even know the name of the designer that I wore on the night.
I love it.
I don't know stuff about stuff like that.
I was going to say, what
really stuff about dogs. Well, yeah, I know stuff about dogs.
Ask me the questions I know.
Exactly.
So how are you feeling in this like crazy, should I say like post-COVID world? Because we're not so much in it anymore.
No, we're just pretending that it doesn't exist, which is a different way of dealing with it.
Exactly.
Look, it's been such a weird year this year for me. Besides the fact that the show finished, my partner had a car accident as well, which was broke his sternum, and so it's just been one sort of disastrous thing after another. But we're here.
Exactly.
And yeah, we're okay, and he's okay, and we're sort of getting over all of the painful things that happened earlier in the year, I suppose. We've licked our wounds for a while, and the sun's out today in Melbourne, and that's exciting. That makes you feel good.
Yes.
So yeah, coping.
I was going to say, I saw on Twitter that you had COVID.
I did, and do you know what? I got it at the Logies.
Party hard, right?
I did. I had a really good time.
What happens at the Gold Coast stays at the Gold Coast.
I don't know. There was nothing like that going on. My mum said to me, did you kiss someone? And I was like, no, of course I did not.
That's gold. But yeah, because I saw that and I was like, oh, and then was it that I saw like on I think you were having a few replies with some Neighbours fans, and I saw that you had to miss all like the dinners and
I missed the wrap party. I missed the special Channel 10 lunch thing that they did for us. Yeah, I missed a whole lot of stuff. And that's kind of what happens with COVID, isn't it? You just kind of,
Yeah.
there's so many people, everyone's got a story of something that they missed because they had COVID. It's like whether you missed a flight or whether you missed a friend's wedding or whether you missed a funeral or whether you missed some other really important life thing, like going to a wrap party. I mean, that's seriously important. Yeah.
Exactly right.
With weddings and funerals.
So let's talk a bit more about your personal life. So you grew up in Ballarat?
I was born in Ballarat. I kind of grew up in Mentone, which is a Bayside area. I'd moved from Ballarat when I was probably about 3 or 4. So I have very little recollections of Ballarat, except for that it's really, really cold.
I've heard that. I go for the Western Bulldogs, and I know sometimes they play up there.
Yeah.
So, and I've been told if I want to go to a game up there, I've really got to rug up.
Yeah, because you was like, some sort of, Queensland softie.
I moved in the winter, and I've got a blanket on me now.
Of course.
And I'm freezing because I'm in short, but the sun's been beautiful, but it's been windy. And I'm walking around, I'm like, oh my God, this is so cold.
It's sunny, and you look outside and you go, oh, it's a nice day. Great, I'll put a t-shirt on. And then you go out there and it's like ice. It's like ice. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's normal.
So
don't just wear things from what you can see outside. Okay. Yeah. That's a tip.
So growing up, obviously, in your life and leaving Ballarat and whatnot, what was your upbringing like?
Oh, well, I had 2 older siblings. So I've got a sister and a brother, and they're 6 and 7 years older than me. So I'm not saying I was an afterthought, but I think I'm a little bit.
So you're the baby child?
I'm the baby child.
Me too. Privileges, right? We have privileges.
Everybody does all the hard work for you.
Yes.
And you just come in and all the stuff's been done. Everyone's already been grounded. They've already worked out that none of that works. Yeah. So nice.
Yeah, you're like the, hello, this is me.
Yeah. So therefore your brother and sister absolutely hate you.
Did you do acting through school, or was it in your family already?
Well, my dad sung. He was a civil engineer, so he was like he had a normal job. He had a bossy job, but yeah, he had a really beautiful baritone voice, and he sung with the Royal Philharmonic Choir.
Oh wow!
And he also used to do sort of light opera company stuff. So it was a bit of amateur sort of stuff. And there was a company in the area that we ended up moving to, which is a Bayside area called Mentone. There was a next door suburb is called Cheltenham, and Cheltenham Light Opera Company. I was probably about 4 when my dad came home from a rehearsal one night and said, oh, they need some kids. And I was like, I'll do it. And, sort of thing. And my brother and my sister and everyone sort of did it. And I just loved it. I just thought it was the best thing ever.
That's
and
so
couldn't
cool.
wait to, every time Dad would be doing a show with them, I'd go, do they need kids? Do they need kids? Do they need kids? So that's where I started. I did a funny thing on stage, which was, of course, a mistake, and everybody laughed at me, and I was hooked. That was pretty much it. I was like, oh, I like this feeling of everyone laughing at me.
Yes.
So, yeah, exactly. So, so that was where it began. My mum and dad, neither of them are sort of like in the business per se. But I think they kind of encouraged my creativity. I ended up going to St Martin's Youth Arts Centre, which is a very sort of well-known drama place in Melbourne, in South Yarra. And yeah, so I went there, and I ended up getting my equity card through them because they did a show at the Nimrod Theatre, which is now called the Belvoir Street Theatre in Sydney. And yeah, so I started doing stuff with St Martin's, and then it sort of went from there to, I did a festival show at the Adelaide Festival with my school, and just sort of one thing led to another, and got myself an agent, and ended up doing a couple of sort of I suppose, what would you call them, telemovies, I suppose they were. And I got some nice plum parts and stuff like that when I was probably about 16 or 17. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, so just sort of went on from there.
So what did your parents think when you were like, this is it, I'm doing acting, I'm pursuing this goal?
They thought it was a terrible idea. They thought it was a terrible idea. They still do. Well, my dad's not here anymore, but one of the last things he said was, "It's a terrible idea." No, no, he always wanted me. I mean, I think it's completely understandable that parents want you to do something that's not going to break your heart, I suppose.
Yes.
Acting can be a bit heartbreaking at times because you're continually being rejected from things.
Yes.
They say something like, if you get a tenth of the jobs that you go for, then you're doing well. So, it was a bit like that at the start. It was like, I'd go up for things, and I auditioned for Neighbours, probably 3 times before I ended up getting a job in it. So
Wow.
yeah, I auditioned for Home and Away, and I'd auditioned for all of those sorts of things. So there were loads of things like that
Yeah.
you don't get first time round. So so eventually I did get Neighbours, and just as a guestie, just came in as a guest.
Yes.
So yeah, and then they offered me more stuff, which was really great.
Yeah. I have to mention your very active lifestyle on Instagram and Twitter. It's amazing for someone, obviously, of the mature, if that's right, of me saying.
I'm not mature. But yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm old, but I'm not mature.
We see a lot of your beautiful dog.
Yes, you do.
I think we need to start up a doggy-gram.
Yeah, I know. There's a couple of people that have said that we should put those up. Yeah, and my partner takes a lot of the photos that I post. He's a better photographer than I
So
am.
we need to credit him in all the photos.
I've got to credit him. I've sort of left him alone. I've sort of left him off Instagram entirely. So
I love it, because
I
I was
know.
going to say we don't see. Yeah, we don't see. I think it's great that a lot of you guys have come to Instagram and Twitter and posting all this stuff that we might not get to see, because obviously it wasn't a huge part of your life when you were quite big on Neighbours, and you've really only received stuff through like fan letters.
Yeah, that was the way back in the day. Yeah, that's what we did. We got fan letters, and you signed your thing and you sent it back off to people.
Yes.
But it's so great having the interaction with fans. I love it. It's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think it just helps the experience of the show so much for people.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into your life of acting. So you were in a like a mini, I wouldn't say mini series, like a short film called Winners, Just Friends, in 1985.
Yes.
Now
that was really early on. That was one of the first things I did. And I was a pregnant teenager in that. It was a gorgeous little series. It was funded by the ABC here, and it was a children's television production for the ABC, when we used to have certain amount of quotas that would be for Australian drama in children's, which unfortunately the last government took away. So now we don't have those anymore. So that's
government
thing being made. It's really, really bad. But yeah, anyway, don't want to get political, but yes, it was really good. It was when those sorts of quality dramas were made for kids, in the same kind of idea of sort of Round the Twist and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was, there was a series called Just Friends. It was a little series.
Right.
And I was the lead character's big sister, who was grumpy and pregnant and embarrassing to the family.
Yeah, because obviously like those things were so hush hush back then. So a film like this would have been quite big.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely breaking ground, and she wasn't demonized, which I thought was really good. I mean, she was a bit by the outsiders, but the family was really really sort of sweet. It was really sweet, and there were some really lovely scenes with the two sisters and her talking about how it happened and what happened and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it was cool.
Was that your like big break into
probably? I think it was probably the first sort of serious television that I'd done, besides sort of a couple of lines in things here and there. So yeah, it was definitely I got an agent from that. I remember that I ended up getting a really good agent from that job. So that probably really helped my trajectory, I would imagine, from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, your next TV show was Prisoner.
Yeah.
1985, same year. You're going to have to help me out because I only have seen 1 or 2 episodes of Prisoner. I'm an old school girl in like watching older TVs, but I just never got into Prisoner. So you did a few snippets and you played a character of the name of Mandy. Please tell us about your character and your role.
Okay, so she lived in the halfway house. So I was never actually in prison.
Right.
So the prisoner was an amazing show.
Yeah.
It was so groundbreaking because it was all about women.
Yes.
And there just hadn't ever been a show like that on the television before.
Yeah.
In the 80s. And you have to remember what the mindset of the culture was back there. And so people just didn't think women were particularly interesting. They didn't do particularly interesting things. They just had children, if you know what I mean. So there was a heap of misogyny going on. Everything was written by men for men, if you know what I mean. So here came along this incredible television show which was only about women.
I think it's amazing.
It was really incredible. And it wasn't just about women, but it wasn't, when women were on television, they were beautiful, if you know what I mean. And the great thing about Prisoner is that they weren't.
They were stripped back.
Even beautiful ones didn't look beautiful because they weren't allowed to wear any makeup.
Yeah.
And they had to wear these horrible denim pinafores. And so I was really gutted that I wasn't in prison because I wanted to wear one of those horrible pinafores.
Great fashion.
Absolutely. So I played. So the halfway house was a place people went after they came out of prison.
Right.
So it was sort of like as an introduction back into real life. So people came and stayed at this, and this was run by this absolutely nutty character called Lou, and she had like Dame Edna glasses and stuff.
Love it.
She was a total nut. And Betty Bobbitt's character, who I'm struggling to remember the name of, they both ran the halfway house, and I had been. I think I'd sort of been attacked by my boss, and I'd attacked him. Or done something terrible to him. And
no judgment.
But a number of drinks have been had between now.
Yes, exactly.
So my character sort of came there because they said to go there. They weren't going to put me in prison, but they were going to make me stay in this place, and as a sort of penance sort of thing, and that I would do my community service through there. So that was pretty much it. I've worked with not Shane Jacobson. Oh God, I can't remember any of the names of people.
I love it.
But it was all fantastic. That's all I can tell you.
I love it. So after your small little gig on Prisoner, you went into this TV show called Neighbours. On the 20th of July in 1987, we first met the interesting character of Melanie Pearson, who was one of Henry's girlfriends at the time. Now, how did you even land the gig on Neighbours in the first place? And did you have to do that famous laugh in the audition?
I did. So I'd auditioned for Neighbours already, probably about 3 or 4 times. So I'd auditioned for Charlene.
Oh, wow.
I'd auditioned for Jane.
Oh my God.
And they were both with my agent. So Kylie and Annie were both with the agent that I was with.
Wow. That's so cool.
So it was sort of like, I'd already seen Jan Russ a number of times. She knew who I was.
Yeah.
And Paul Maloney was directing. And Paul Maloney, if you do not know, is Annie Jones's husband now.
Nice.
It wasn't Annie Jones's husband then. I think they were just still going out together. It was before they got married. But I went on to become Annie. Oh, there you go. My lights just switched itself off. Sorry about that.
It's fine.
Sometimes it just gets a bit hot and I'll just turn it off for a while and we'll get sort of.
She'll be right.
So I actually didn't. I had an audition and it wasn't even. I didn't even get like proper Neighbours script, like a character breakdown. So she was just a really tiny character at this stage. And all they wanted to know, because I think they knew that I could speak and stuff like that.
You could speak English nice and clear.
I had a lovely speaking voice and I'd been classically trained, and so therefore I must be able to do this. So I went in and Paul was like, we just want someone who can do a silly laugh. And the breakdown was they wanted someone who could laugh like a seal honking and a donkey braying, a cross between a seal honking and a donkey braying. And I sort of put my mind back to my early years at drama school and when you did those animal character workshops. I just think of
roll in.
sort of like trying to work out where would it be, all of that in my throat and all of that. So it was completely technical. And went in and did it, and Paul almost fell off his chair and went, "That's hilarious, thank you." And I just thought he just thought I was funny, and that was okay, and I wasn't going to get the job because I just made an absolute idiot of myself. Lo and behold, I get a phone call. Yeah, they'd love you to do this silly part. And I was like, oh, great. Okay, well, then I would have done Neighbours and I can, because everyone's going to do Neighbours at some point. And I thought, I'll just go in a loud, mad rush of nuttiness and they'll never ask me back again.
I love it. And now look. So you were playing Melanie on and off for a few years until you got the actual full-time full part of the cast in 1989. And you had to work under Paul Robinson.
Yes,
the character had to.
Yes.
Was there like some filling of your role and they were like, yep, let's bring you back in? And what made you like work under Paul Robinson?
Well, it was purely because the way it worked was I actually went and did another soap in between the beginning of doing Melanie and coming back again, because I went and did there was a show. Once again, you'll have no idea because it was so many decades before you were born, Linz. So it was called The Power and the Passion.
Okay.
It was Australia's. It was the idea was for it to be Australia's very first daytime soap. So it was made for daytime.
Right. So like very G-rated.
It was really bad.
Okay.
But I ended up leaving it. And one of the girls that was working on the show said, you know what you should do? You should ring up Mark Callan, who's the director of Neighbours, and say that you're back and that you're available, because I know for a fact he's told me how much he loved you. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. That's too scary. And she said, well, do you want me to do it? He's a mate of mine. And I was like,
love it.
So she rang Matt Cohen, who's the producer at the time, and he said, oh, well, that's really funny timing because Annie Jones has just unexpectedly not signed her contract.
So there was that gap of a character.
Annie Jones worked for Paul.
Melanie that's where that
worked for Paul.
Yes.
So they went, oh, okay, so we could put Melanie in there and
kind of a crossover.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. That sorts that out. It stops us losing Paul's secretary.
Yes.
So we get somebody that we already knew as Paul's secretary.
Yeah.
So that's how that came about. So it was really synchronicitous. It came from, me leaving a show that was still going, them going, you should do this.
Yeah.
And Annie surprisingly not re-signing, which no one had any idea that she was going to do.
Yeah.
So so it was just a bit of they were all in a bit of shock that Annie was going, and then along came, another blonde with big blue eyes.
They're like, perfect, thank you.
Very different character, obviously.
Yes, polar opposites, but obviously the crossover just worked perfectly for them. So
yeah, it did. Yeah.
So you left in 1991.
Yep.
And then, surprise, Melanie came back in 2021. What was
30 years later?
Yeah, what was going through your mind when you came back? Did you just like get back into the flow of things, or you were like,
well, it was so well written. That was the joy of it. So,
yes.
So it happened during COVID. So I'd spent 17 years in the UK.
Wow.
Yeah, so I didn't come back in 2000 until 2010. So I came back, and the reason why I came back was because my mum got cancer and needed someone to look after her, and my dad also got sick at the same time. So I came home, and I was just a carer for a number of years. Fortunately, my mum recovered from cancer and has since then had 2 huge heart operations, and she's now just turned 90.
Amazing.
So mum did very well for me coming back. My dad didn't do quite so well, so he died probably about 12 years ago now. But so I ended up sort of, just realizing that I'd missed out on a whole lot of time with my mum and dad.
Yeah. And like realization.
It was a big realization of like, oh my God, okay, they don't go forever, and I need to spend some time with them. So I was just like, I'm not going to worry too much about trying to resurrect my acting career, and so I started a little business where I was doing music and movement in kinders and creches and stuff like that, and I was doing a little bit of teaching and stuff like that, which was going really well for me. But of course, with COVID, all of that completely stopped. And I couldn't go into a creche, or I couldn't go into a kinder, and there was none of that work. So and I was also teaching speech and drama for another company by that stage, and so I was just on JobKeeper like everybody else, not knowing what was going to ever happen to my business. And I got a phone call from my agent saying, it's just an idea at this stage, darling, as they say, but just wanting to get whether you would be interested at all in going back into Naples. And I was like, yes, I would, yes. And he was like, okay, well, we'll let them know. I can't tell you what it's going to be. It might just be, a couple of episodes, no idea, but they're just wondering whether you'd be interested at all. If so, they're going to write some stuff for you. So I was like, okay, great. And I had no idea what it was going to be. And that first phone call happened in probably June of 2020.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So much earlier before. I guess you guys filmed so in advance.
We did as well. So I was filming that stuff in October 2020.
Yes.
So, but of course, I didn't go on air until January 2021.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, so we were a long way ahead at that point. We were at least 3 months ahead. So so that's kind of what happened. And then I was, completely blown away to be immediately asked back after I'd done that little stint. And then when I came back, it was all stuff with Ryan and all that sort of stuff. And then then I had another little stint. Then I got all these scripts, and they were all about this mental affair, and I was like, really? I'm at least 15 years older than him. Really? Anyway, don't question anything. Just go, great. Yes. Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. I will learn those lines.
I will learn those lines and work out how to throw my bra across the room, and, and then just start to panic madly about the fact that, I'm a 50-year-old woman who's going to have to get her body out on television.
Girl power.
Yeah. As Mum would say, just be there for the people that, that aren't perfect.
That's
Of course,
gold.
always made me feel so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Mum's words of wisdom, right?
Yeah, thanks, Mum.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
I have to obviously mention the sad ending of Neighbours. It, I think, came as a shock to everyone as much as it would do to you guys, although it does mean you amazing actors and actresses do get to do new and incredible things with your acting. What, like, how you are you process everything now? Like, was it just like a brick wall in your face?
Well, we kind of knew that it was gonna happen. Well, we kind of knew that we were under review. I suppose that's a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
So we'd had an extension. The way that the Channel 5 contracts worked at that time is that we would get 4 years. So
Yeah.
that we would get a 4-year contract. And instead of getting a 4-year contract, we only got a year contract.
Right.
And they said they wanted to see how it looked. And that was when we all of a sudden really upped the stakes. So the storylines were more exciting. We went more places, which we could do purely because, we were stuck in Ramsay Street for COVID.
Yeah.
So we could go more places, we could do more things. And there was a big sort of push just to make the show as good as we could possibly make it, which I really feel like we actually hit all of those things.
You did. We saw locations of, like, me still living in Queensland at that stage. I saw locations of Victoria where I was like, oh my God, where is that? That is stunning.
I want to move there.
Yeah. Boom, let's go. Thank you.
Riverbend. Where's Riverbend?
Ramsay Street, please. Ramsay Street.
Yes. So no, it was so we and it all looked fantastic, and that was this was the last push to try and see if we could either get, because at that stage, we knew that it's quite possible that we were going to finish, and we were thinking, can we make it like so a streaming network may pick us up or something like that. So that was the thinking behind all of that.
I'm shocked that a streaming network hasn't picked it up.
I just think that the way television is going to be made in the future is going to be different. A different model.
I 100% agree. I've grown up with Australian TV, no Netflix, and I've just gotten Netflix, and I'm just like, this is so weird. I just want to watch normal Aussie soaps, and I'm not a fan of the other soap that's on Australian TV. I've been a Neighbours fan, so having that off now is a bit weird, but there's so much other things, like very American TV shows.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, once again, not trying to get political.
Yes.
The last group that we had in charge did nothing about Australian content quotas or drama quotas. And what's really important for us as a country is to be able to see our stories on screen.
Yeah.
And whether they're on the telly or they're on Netflix or they're on Stan or they're on, whatever, if we can see the stories of Australians and their lives on there, then that's really good for us, because it means that our stories get told and we just don't have English stories and American stories, and, Spanish and Norwegian and whatever stories.
Yeah.
We need to have Australian stories. It's really, really important.
100%.
So I think what's super important is to get quotas on things like Netflix and Stan, and all of the streaming services need to have, the ones that are shown in Australia need to have a certain amount of Australian stories.
Yes.
And once that happens, I think we'll be able to see our stories come back again. Like Heartbreak High has just...
Yes, I just saw that. I fangirled.
Well, Scott Major, of course.
I know.
Heartbreak High originally.
Yes.
And
the original.
Yeah. So that's there's going to be things like that are going to come out, and I know that Fremantle have been doing some really nice stuff since Neighbours has finished. They've done a show called Riptide, which has a couple of the people from Neighbours in it,
I
not
think
me.
I've seen bits and pieces, and Scott Major's directing a few of the little.
Directing,
Yes.
Kate Kendall's directing.
Yeah, Kate Kendall's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Benny Turland might be in it.
Yes,
as well.
I saw something with him in it.
Yeah. So there's going to be some co-productions and stuff, and that's got an English actor in it. So there's going to be more things that have got people from otherwhere, so from elsewhere, and they're going to combine.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's going to be sad not to have soaps that we all sit around and watch together, because I know for a fact that that helps people deal with problems.
Oh, and I for one will put my hand up. That was like, I was explaining to one of my friends, these shows are like getaways. Yeah. Like my friends have their shows on Netflix, but this was something that I watched one night a week, like not one night a week, but like each night I would watch a few episodes, and it would give me some joy for the next day and the next day, especially through COVID.
Absolutely. And taking all of those things away, in this situation is, really bad for people's mental health.
Yeah.
And I think it also, the amount of people that have told me that they came out after watching Neighbours, they came out to their mum or dad or grandma or whoever. Other people told about, stories that they'd been bullied, that, all sorts of different things.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think that thing of sitting around the television watching something together and knowing that everybody else is watching it at the same time, I think that's a real shame to miss. But I think it's that thing that this is a new way of doing things. And I think at some point people will go, you know what? I used to like watching it like that. And I think there will be stuff that goes back, if you know what I mean, to those sorts of time slotty kind of shows.
I'm hoping for reruns. My fingers are crossed.
Yeah, I know. No, I really hope that happens. I don't understand why they don't just put them all on 10 play. And
the mullet and the perms and the shoulder pads.
Oh man, I had some pretty seriously bad sprites. Like sprouts coming out the top of my head.
Love it.
I used to love a bit of a sprout. And there were a few beehives that she had back in the day. Like 60s. Yeah.
Are you happy that Melanie and Toadie got their like forever after?
So happy.
I was like, yes.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so good. So good for his character after all of the pain and heartbreak that character had been through. To give him a happy ending, I think, was a really fantastic thing.
Yeah.
And I think it sort of brought all the different years together at the end. With the two of us being there, because there was only 2 years. Like I think I finished 91, and I think he started 93 or 4, or something. So pretty much between the two of us, with
all those characters, could come back and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. So that opened up all of those old school characters to come back.
Yeah.
Which was great. And I just think it tied everything up so beautifully. I think they did such a great job of the finale. I
was worried. As a long-term Neighbours fan, I was worried. I was like, they can't stuff it up. They need to leave us happy. They can't have anyone dying. They can't have this happening. And then in my head, I was like, what if they do? I need to be prepared.
Well, everyone was saying, everything's going to blow up. Everything's going to be. It's like, so yes, it was really good that wasn't the way that it finished.
Yeah, it tied up very well. I have to mention one of my favorite scenes, and it has you, Stefan, Annie, Paul Keane, Guy Pearce and Ian Smith, that street scene, and Jeff Payne Payne
fighting the lamp. That was amazing. That was
just like nostalgia.
Yeah, it was. It was just a moment in time. I still couldn't work out why I had randomly run out of my wedding brunch to try to do that. I can't quite work out what Melanie was thinking about there. But
I want to see old men fighting with a lamp.
I want to see a man fighting a lamp in a street. So I can see Harold squirt someone with a hose like
Yes.
we used to in the old days.
Yes.
It was very contrived and hilarious, but yes, it was absolutely brilliant. And I think the reason why it was there was exactly for the reason that you're saying, Lily. It was a special thing for the fans to get all of those. Did you just see that little head? That's Ed.
Oh. I was like, who is that?
I'm not being broken into.
Run, say pineapple if you need help. But yes, no, it was very nostalgic. And I think it was, obviously I didn't grow up in those times when all of yous were on TV together.
Yeah.
That my mum texted me and she was like, oh my God, it's Mike and Jane. And then I was like, yes. And then she's like, and Harold and Des and Melanie. And I was like, okay, Mum.
And Paul and
we're all together.
And we were all together. I know. And it was such a great fun shooting that. It was just absolutely hilarious. I don't think I actually had any lines. So you always love it when you have a scene that you don't have any lines, because this means you can enjoy yourself. You don't have any responsibility.
If the camera's not on you guys, right? If the camera's focused on other people, are you like pulling faces trying to make them laugh?
No.
Or are you very serious?
I don't think I'm neither very serious or pulling faces. I'm somewhere in between.
I was
trying to be helpful and yet not really being very helpful at all. That's normally my position.
It would be too tempting when you know you're not on camera and you can just go like to the person that is on.
Yeah, but you know that's going to happen to you then. So it's one of those things. And if you have a really sad moment and somebody's going at you, it's going to be a little off-putting, and you're not going to be able to cry, and you're not going to be able to do all of those things. So no, we're
very serious and professional actors. Yeah.
That's what
so I'm going to jump to my childhood. In 2003, you joined, and I did not know this until I saw a post on Instagram, a kids TV show called Koala Brothers. I loved that show as a kid. And when I found out
there's a whole other section of the public that go, I remember when Zimmer found out that I was on Koala Brothers, she was like, oh my God.
That's what I was like, because I think I'm only 20 and I think she's only a couple years
she's
older.
Probably 21 or 22.
Yeah.
So she's
I was besotted with that TV show. I could sing the theme song. I had no clue. And when I found out, that was my reaction.
Yeah. So I played Mitzi, but I also played Alice the platypus and the emu that sold the ice cream. Yeah, Lolly the emu. Yeah.
And now I'm just like, oh my God, stop. How do you go from like Neighbours to Koala Brothers?
Well, Koala Brothers, funnily enough, was made in the UK. So it was when I was over in the
TV
UK.
show.
Yeah. Well, it was written by an Australian.
Right.
But I was the only Australian in the show. The rest were all English actors doing Australian accents.
I feel like you've just like either ruined my childhood.
Sorry.
Or it's just gotten interesting. I don't know.
It went everywhere. So it was in the UK as well, the Koala Brothers, and it was in the States as well. So it went everywhere, the Koala Brothers. It was absolutely huge.
It was it's kind of like I have to put it in like the Bluey category. Like it's a big child, like I remember it. I don't think it's on TV now. Like I haven't seen any reruns.
I don't think it is. No.
But I feel privileged to have grown up with the Koala Brothers.
Oh, yay. Yes, well, yeah. My stepdaughter, I remember when she found out, because she used to watch it, she was like, I didn't like Mitzi. That was the first thing she said to me.
And you're like, oh God.
I was like, oh, okay. This is going really well.
This is going to go really well. Yeah, I just think like I saw it. I saw a post and I was like, isn't that Koala Brothers? And I was like, oh, who played that? And I saw you posted it and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Google.
Yes. I was like, Melanie, that laughs really weird and is really crazy, plays Mitzi on Koala Brothers. My mind was blown.
Also really crazy. Can you see?
Yeah. There must be like a pattern.
There's a pattern. It's got something to do with me and crazy.
Yeah, you know what? Love it. Live, love, life, right?
Yeah,
So,
well, you know, I've always never been afraid to make an absolute idiot of myself.
me either.
Benefits of other people's hilarity, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. You got to make other people laugh, right?
That's what I do.
So apart from your acting, you also did theatre work.
Mm-hmm.
So you were in Peter Pan for 12 weeks and you played Peter Pan?
Yeah, I did Peter Pan so many times.
Oh, really?
So I think I might have done Peter Pan 4 times. One in a
Oh,
proper big long tour, and then the rest of the time we did Peter Pan in pantomime.
oh, nice.
So yeah, so I did a lot of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Did you have to like adjust from doing, obviously theatre is very different to acting on
I
behind
grew
camera.
up doing theatre,
I
so
was gonna
theatre
say,
was sort of the training ground for me. So all of the stuff that I did, like with St Martin's Theatre Company, that was all theatre.
right.
All the early stuff I did was all theatre. So I'd grown up doing theatre. So theatre is my happy place.
Right.
More so than on a set.
Yeah.
In fact, I really love being, because I like to see and hear the people that are enjoying my performance, as
Yes.
opposed to
Yeah.
not knowing whether I've been good or not until 3 months later and it comes on screen and you go, oh God, I could have been a bit late. Whereas the great thing about theatre is that you get to do it over and over and over again, the same thing, as opposed to continually changing and continually going, your character going on this journey that never ends, which is what happens in a soap.
Yeah.
So with theatre, you've got a really obvious beginning and a middle and an end, so you know the pits to hit emotionally and stuff,
Yeah.
which I really like. And I also really like getting the immediate feedback of an
Yes.
audience, which is, you can tell whether when they don't, if they don't laugh and it's still supposed to be funny, then, what do I need to do to change that? And I need to get them to laugh. So it's kind of, it's more of a sort of work in progress, as opposed to smash and grab, which is more like what Neighbours was, because we made it. So I really love theatre. So that's kind of, and also you don't have to worry so much about where you stand and shadows and all that sort of stuff in the theatre that you do on television. And yeah, you can do things slightly differently each night, so you can keep it fresh for yourself and for the people that you're playing with as well. So yeah, I love theatre.
Would you go back to it?
Hell yeah.
I love it. We're nearing the end to our amazing interview. Is there anything that you wanted to add? Maybe some fun facts about yourself? What don't we know about you?
Well, I don't know. Let's say the differences and the similarities between me and Melanie. How about that? Would that be a good way to think?
Go.
Okay, so I'm a Taurus. She's a Gemini. But both of us believe in astrology very much so.
I'm an Aquarius.
You're an Aquarius.
Yes.
I've got an Aquarian moon.
Oh.
So yeah, no, Aquarians are fantastically egalitarian people. They have really big picture attitudes. They're thinkers. They're into social justice. They understand all of that sort of stuff.
Look at you go.
Right, yeah, I know all of this stuff. I know.
Madame Zolga.
Madame Zolga, exactly. What else? We look really similar. We sound kind of similar, although I've always played Mel slightly higher. Her voice is just slightly higher than mine, so it's a little bit more higher. It's not quite Mitzi, it's not right up there.
Oh my God, stop.
So
I'm gonna to my mum, I spoke to Mitzi from Koala Brothers.
Do you want me to say hello to you, Lindley, as Mitzi?
Go on.
Well, g'day, Lindley. It's really fantastic to meet you. I reckon you're heaps good and you're going to make a really fantastic interviewer and that. Bye.
Oh my God. I died. Do you laugh like Melanie?
No, I don't.
Do you get asked that a lot?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I kind of just giggle quietly, I think. There's some times where I guffaw loudly, but I definitely don't do the donkey and seal thing.
I can what kind of music do you like? Is there any who's your favorite singer? Like, do you?
I love hip hop. I've always loved hip hop.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So at the moment, people that I really love, I love Sampa. Do you like Sampa the Great?
I don't know. I see. I'm like like Taylor Swift, Olivia
Okay.
John, David Bowie, kind of poppy.
David Bowie's very good. David Bowie's very good.
Yeah.
That's the beginning of all good music, is a lot of David Bowie. That's great.
Yes.
But Melbourne, she's Melbourne.
Okay.
Sampa the Great, you need to check out Remy.
I think I've heard of Remy.
Yeah, Remy's very good too.
Yeah.
But there's so much fantastic music in Melbourne.
I'm excited.
Yeah, you should be. You're in a great place.
Oh, I know. There's not much happening up in Vegas at the moment.
Well, it's just a really different place. I think Melbourne's just got much more sort of, and I think it's because we've got such crap weather. With crap weather comes great culture.
Coffee is all I've been told about.
Coffee is very important to us in Melbourne. So.
Will we be seeing you in anything new?
Not immediately, but I am working with, I used to do comedy when I was in the UK. I used to do stand-up with a girl called Sally Bourne.
I've seen these posts.
Yeah. And so Sal and I are going to be working together again. We're writing like about 5 different things at the same time, which makes it very difficult. One of the things we're writing is a podcast. We're also working on a series, comedy series together. So we're just sort of writing. It's all nothing's set in stone or anything at all yet, but we're back together, and I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes open for that one. Well, Lucinda, it has been an absolute pleasure interviewing you today, and I hope you've enjoyed chatting with me.
I certainly have, Lindsay.
Oh, and what a way to hit off episode number 1 of Talking with the Stars. It's done and dusted.
Woo!
Yes, I know. And I hope that I get to chat to you later.
All right, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.